we'll be, of course, posting this video on YouTube so you can watch it later. We're going to be talking about one of our main products here, which is our 401k business financing, and go over some of the basics, including eligibility and the process. And of course, please don't hesitate to ask questions. So the 401k business financing is used, it allows people to use their retirement money to fund their own business, whether people are buying a business or starting a new business. So let's first get into some eligibility rules. Thanks for your patience. We're doing checking just some of the stats here for the audio. So again, it's called, the IRS refers to it as a rollover as business startup or a ROBS transaction. It's going to allow you to fund a business with your retirement funds without taking a taxable distribution. So certainly a starting point here is making sure you've got eligible retirement money. Money that's in a former employer plan, money that's in a non-Roth IRA. Those are your two main categories. So that could be different types, of course, of former employer plans. It could be TSP. It could be, obviously, you got your 401ks. Some people have already been self-employed in the past, and they might have a solo 401k or maybe a SEP IRA. On the IRA front, really, you've got your SEPs, you've got your traditional IRAs. The type of IRAs you're not going to be able to access are Roth IRAs, because the 401k business financing entails using a 401k plan. And under the Roth IRA rules, you cannot transfer money from a Roth IRA to any type of 401k. In terms of the employer plans, we say former employer because usually when you have money in a current employer plan, you're not going to be able to access it until you actually leave your job. Of course, there are some exceptions. For example, if you rolled over money from a previous job, and then oftentimes you can access that money. Or if you're 59 and a half, then you would be able to roll over the money even if you haven't retired yet from that position. So in terms of qualification, we've grouped them here into 9 items. So you've got, depending on the circumstances. So we're going to go through these in this slide. So 1 through 3 here on this slide, the business has to be an active business. It's got to be an operating company. Usually that means selling goods or services. You've also got real estate operating company, which is a subtype. But so that's going to exclude things like if you're just a finance company, maybe you're just lending money to people. Or if it's really just a shell company or a shell entity that's maybe just holding one piece of real estate. So in terms of debt, the money cannot be used to pay off an existing loan that you're personally obligated on. So if you were trying to fund your existing business, and that's certainly possible with the 401k business financing plan, but if you can't use the money to, say, invest in your business and then pay off your SBA loan or pay off your bank loan. And then lastly here on this page, the entity must be a C corporation. And that means a corporation taxed as a C corporation. So it can't be even an LLC taxed as a C corporation. And it certainly can't be just an LLC taxed as a disregarded entity or an S corporation. So that's not going to work. It's got to be a C corp. So of course that has some implications from a tax perspective because Now that entity is going to have to pay taxes on the money, so it's not going to be a pass-through. So back to the scenario of using the money to fund your existing business, typically, if you have a small business, your existing business is probably not going to be a taxed as a C corporation. So now you're going to have to convert it over to a C corporation from whatever it is today. Say it's an S corporation. So let's go on to the next slide here. We've got items 4 through 6. So again, the type of money you use is going to be pre-tax money, not Roth money. The 401k plan. So in order to complete one of these 401k business financing plans and fund your business, you have to follow very specific steps. So, for example, you would roll over the money from your existing account into the new 401k, which of course that's not going to be a taxable event because that's just going from one retirement account to a new retirement account. And then that new retirement account is going to allow you to invest in your own business. And the way that it's structured is it's structured as a stock purchase. So it's not a loan or any other type of structure. It's got to be a purchase of common stock. And so that begs the question, okay, well, what's the price per share? So that price per share has to be a fair market value price per share. And then lastly, on this slide here, no commission. So no commission can be charged for the 401k profit purchase of the stock. So that could be like a broker or other type of commission. So 7 through 9 in the last slide here before we flip to the other slide is if we're again back to the existing business situation, evaluation is certainly going to be required in that scenario. And that's because the current owner, let's say it's you own 100% of your business today and you want to recapitalize it using some of your retirement money through the 401k business financing. Let's say that entity is an LLC. So that LLC is going to have to be converted to a C corporation, like we went over before. So you are going to get stock in that C corporation based on the pre-existing value of that LLC. And then stock is going to be issued to the 401k based on the 401k funds invested. So you can't just pick the value of that existing business. It has to be determined. There has to be a valuation, a fair market valuation to document and demonstrate what that value is. Okay, keeping with the existing business theme here, again, we're talking about conversion. We kind of touched on it before. So again, the entity is going to have to be converted to a C corporation if it's not currently a C corporation. So the IRS makes it very easy to elect S corporation status, but there's a form to do that. But there's no form to revoke S corporation status, to convert from an S corporation. So they've actually beefed up their information on their website, the IRS. It used to be buried in essentially an opinion letter. But there are very specific steps that have to be followed. And certainly you're going to want to coordinate that with your business tax advisor, because typically that means you're filing a partial year S corporation return and now a partial year C corporation return, along with following those very specific steps to convert the entity. And then lastly here, if the existing business has employees, those employees are likely going to have to be offered a chance to participate in the plan on day one, just like. And if they want to invest their money in the business, if they want to roll over their money like you and invest in the business, then you can't stop them, exclude them from doing that. Okay, so let's go back over to sharing the other slide. Okay, let's talk about the process. So the process on this presentation divided up into 8 steps. So you've got And just in this slide here, just really touches on the fact of what the overall time is going to be. Typically, you're looking at 18 to 25 days. And really the biggest X factor here is the time it takes for the money to move from wherever it is today. You know, let's say you're a federal employee or a former federal employee, you got money in a TSP. The federal government's not going to be in a rush to get you your money so you can fund your business. And even same thing applies whether you used to work in corporate America and you got your money at Fidelity. You're going to go at their own pace. And under the rules, they don't have to go. And I mean, they've got to go with a reasonable amount of speed, but they don't have to wire the money or anything like that. And usually the money is going to come over in the form of a check. So now you're talking about the time for the check to be mailed out, the check to be cut, the check to clear. So now you can see why the process can really extend out to those 18 to 25 business days. Okay, so you've really got, in terms of the process, you're doing at a high level a couple. You're setting up a corporation, and that's going to be the entity that's going to be funded with your retirement money. And that corporation is going to sponsor a 401k. And then separately, you're also rolling money over from your former employer plan or your IRA. So those things can go on parallel paths. So step one, corporation is filed with the Secretary of State. Usually that's going to be in whichever state you're operating the business. Some folks ask about, hey, should we do this in Delaware? Well, usually if it's a closely held business, it's just you really that owns the business. You're not looking to take it public or attract institutional investors. Obviously you want to discuss that with your legal advisors, your tax advisors, but most folks conclude that it's just easier just to set up the entity in whatever state they're going to be operating the business in. You don't have to maintain the business now in Delaware plus Pennsylvania if you're in Pennsylvania. So once the Secretary of State issues those articles, an EIN needs to be obtained for the corporation. So that's something that's obtained from the IRS. Those two documents, then the IRS issues a letter with the EIN number, the state issues the articles. You can now open up the bank account at the bank of your choice. And that's the bank account where the money is ultimately going to land. That's the bank account that you can use as your operating account going forward. So when your customers are paying you, with a credit card, those deposits are getting deposited into that bank account. You're paying your vendors, you're paying your team members out of that account, etc. Okay, so on the 401k side, once the corporation has been established, it now adopts the 401k. So a 401k plan, 401k really falls under the trust umbrella. So it's like a legal entity. It's got its own set of documents. You've got the adoption agreement, etc. So it has its own separate EIN number. And so a separate account also needs to be set up for that 401k. Like when you move your money from, say, your former employer plan, your TSP, or you move your money from your IRA, you don't want the money to go directly into the business account. That's going to look like a taxable distribution. So it's got to first go into your 401k to be consistent with what you're doing. It's going to, you want the flow of the money to be consistent with the fact that you're moving it from now your former employer plan to your new 401k, or your IRA to your new 401k. All right. So once the money clears into that 401k account, start the process to get that check sent out. Meantime, the corporation is being set up, then the corporation adopts the 401k. Then ideally, by the time you receive that transfer check, the 401k account is open. You deposit the check into the 401k account. Once the check clears, then because the plan allows you to do so, you can buy company stock. So the money would go from that 401k account over to buy the company stock. And so that means the money would be wired over to that business account. So now the money's finally in that business account. And you can start using it right away for any type of legitimate business purpose, whether we're talking about equipment, paying for your office, paying employees, whatever the case may be. So I'll stop. I mean, please, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, don't hesitate to ask any questions. So it's an open forum here. Talk about anything that might have come up through the course of this presentation. Well, I really appreciate everybody's time. Please like the video. Please subscribe for videos like this. So have a great day, everybody.